Hey guys, welcome to Reading for Thursday. Today our focus is a little bit different, but we're actually going to take notice of similar things that we've been looking at over the week in terms of what the author's doing and thinking about what that does for us as a reader. So today we're going to learn to join our prior experience, so things you already know, and the text, so what the author's written, to create visual images. We're visualizing. I don't want to use the word easy. It's an easy enough skill to visualize in your mind, but the thinking we actually do is taking notice of what's helping us make those visualizations to really analyze and understand what the author's doing. So let's have a look at our lesson. I'll pop down in you can't even see me with the learning intention. Let's go this one. So, visualizing APK, I want you to write down your thoughts to the following two questions. So do this in your reading book. So number one, what is visualizing? Write that down now. Pause me if you need to. I don't get offended when you pause me. In fact, I take it as a compliment because you're listening. What is visualizing? Pause me if you need to. And then second, what do you think helps us make those visualizations? So you can have a look at our learning intention today. That might give you a couple of clues. You might want to break it down a bit more and go into a bit more detail. Again, pause me if you need to pause me. I take it as a compliment. I will not be offended. Thank you to those people who paused me. All right. Hopefully you've written those things down. If you haven't, don't move on. Write them down. You'll need to upload them later. But I'm sure all of you have. All right, let's get into some new knowledge. So visualizing, as we know, and we've talked about this a little bit, and you would have talked about this since you're in prep. Visualizing is when you're creating an image, or I like to say a film or a movie in our minds, because it changes. The story moves on and we kind of play the movie in our mind as we read the text. It's a really powerful tool, really powerful thinking strategy, because it really helps us understand what's happening, because we're literally creating it. It's creating is powerful. So it's created by the descriptive language that the authors use, which is something we've focused on a lot over the last couple of weeks. And also our own experiences and prior knowledge. So the author can describe something to you, but you can't really imagine it unless you have some kind of experience or prior knowledge. Your prior knowledge or experience might be you make it up in your head. So for example, I'm reading Lord of the Rings at the moment, and there's description of these different fantasy characters, right? Things that I've never seen in my life because they're not real, but I imagine what they look like. How I imagine it and how you imagine it, where's my finger? How you imagine it could be completely different, and that's fine. So let's have a look. I'm going to make this big because we're going to do some visualizing for this little extract. This is the beginning of chapter 3 of Charlotte's Web, classic literature. To start off, I'm just going to read it aloud to you, and then I'll show you what I've done, and then you can go back to it, listen again, read it yourself when you do the activity. The great thing about learning online is you can move back and forth through the lesson. So sit back, relax, close your eyes if you want. I'm going to ask you to do that again soon anyway. But let's read this short little extract from the beginning of chapter 3 of Charlotte's Web. The barn was very large. It was very old. It smelled of hay. It smelled of the perspiration of tired horses and the wonderful sweet breath of patient cows. It smelled of grain and of harness dressing, and of axle grease, and of rubber boots, and of new rope. It was full of all sorts of things that you find in barns: ladders, grindstones, pitchforks, monkey wrenches, scythes, lawn mowers, snow shovels, axe handles, milk pails, water buckets, empty grain sacks, and rusty rat traps. It was a kind of barn that swallows like to build their nests in. It was the kind of barn that children like to play in. That is an incredible piece of writing. There's so much we could pull out of there as writers, but we're readers today. So let's focus on what description, what in there, what has E.B. White done here to help us create an image or a movie in our minds. Let's have a look at what I drew. Now my example, before I scroll down to it, is a really great example of how when you sketch your visualization, it doesn't have to be artistic, because the thinking, the creativity, the learning's happening in your mind. This is just your way of showing what's happening in your mind. So let's have a look at my sketch. It's a sketch. It's in grey lead. Stop laughing. I can hear some people laughing. I have a growth mindset. My sketching will improve. But we can have a look here. I've kind of drawn a barn. It doesn't have a roof. I don't know why. But the first thing I think of in a barn is like these wooden pillars. So I've drawn 4 wooden pillars there that are kind of holding it up. There was mention of the perspiration of horses. I've drawn a chicken in there, a hay bale, a snow shovel, a bucket, a rat trap. I've drawn like a little workbench, because my experience of barns and sheds and garages are workbenches, and I've put a wrench on there. There's a ladder leaning up against a wall. There's a gumboot, a muddy gumboot. I've just included different things that happened in my mind as I was reading that section. Obviously, there's a lot of things that E.B. White's described that I haven't included, and that's okay, because it's what happened in my mind. I can point out different things in this section here that inspired me to draw those different things. It was large. It smelled of hay. It smelled of the perspiration of tired horses. It was full of all sorts of things you find in barns. Ladders. I could have drawn a pitchfork. Monkey wrenches, shovels, milk pails, water buckets. I drew a rusty rat trap, just because we had to get rid of the rats in my barn, because I don't like them. I drew a nest up the top here. You probably can't even tell, but there's a nest in there. My image might look completely different to yours, and that's okay, because I've taken what E.B. White's described to me and I've merged it with my experience of barns I've seen, barns I've been in, pictures of barns, just my imagination of what a barn might look like, to draw a sketch, or to create the image in my mind first. So that is exactly what you're doing today. So what you need to do is, I suggest you go back. You can re-listen to me reading it to you. You can close your eyes, and then you can really dive into that visualization. Take note of what I'm reading to you. If you prefer, you can read it to yourself and take note of what's happening in your mind. Then you need to sketch the image. So like mine, it doesn't have to be a piece of art, although you could argue everything is a piece of art. If you'd like to sketch it in your book, you can. If you'd like to get onto Keynote or Sketcher School or something like that, you can do that. But you're not getting an image of a barn and then drawing over it. You're sketching your own visualization. This is your thinking. This is a snapshot of the inside of your brain right now. Then, number 3, you're going to upload your image onto Seesaw. A caption. What created your visualization? So I want you to pick at least one thing from the text that E.B. White described, and one thing that you think was influenced by your own personal experience. So for example, I hate rats. I don't want rats in my barn, so I made sure there was a rat trap. My experience of barns are those wooden pillars in there, so I included them. Then after you've uploaded your image and captioned it, you're going to read to self for 30 minutes. Then do your reflection after that. So come back to it. Let's have a look at what we're doing for our reflection. I've set up the top here. You might need to come back to it. If there aren't uploaded activities or the teacher hasn't approved it yet, just come back later after you do your read to self, because, or even after you finish another topic, I want you to have a look at what other people have drawn. I want you to notice what was similar and what was different. And then on your own post, I want you to comment on it with one thing that was similar on someone else's and one thing that was different. Because what we're trying to point out here and take notice is how our prior knowledge influences our visualization. So other people are going to have different images, and that's okay. Alright, so if you've watched this all the way through, I would suggest you go back and re-listen and really take notice of what's happening in your mind while I read to you. This is a fun activity. Enjoy. Looking forward to seeing your wonderful works of art.